All right, joining me now by popular demand. The people were clamoring, Bob, to get you back on. It was like I was being inundated by tweets and emails and handwritten letters.
I
It is the
understand.
man that I once shared a room with in Phoenix, Arizona. It is my former coworker, some would even say friend, Bob Cooney.
Patrick, how
Bob,
are
how
you,
are you?
buddy?
I'm better now that I'm looking at your handsome face.
Aw, you're so sweet. How's the hair game
Thank you.
today?
All right, horrible. Yeah, I've
Okay.
got like a mullet thing going.
That's not
Yeah, I got
good.
to get a haircut.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. Bobby, before we get into sports like a couple of nerds, Bobby, you have a new gig. Do you want to talk
That
about
is
it?
true. I am now working for On Pattison, great company. Started up
Oh my
about a
God.
couple
As
years
soon as you
ago.
started talking, wait. As soon as you started talking about it, your feed cut out.
Oh, really? I blame you. You got me?
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so I joined On
Yeah,
Pattison
you're good.
about 10 days ago, a couple weeks ago, and excited, very excited, covering some Sixers now, but we'll be doing a lot of everything, Pat. We have podcasts up, going to be doing some podcasting, a lot of writing. There's a radio station involved. So a lot of exciting things going on in this company that we are looking to grow even bigger and get even better. And Tim Kelly and Anthony Sanfilippo do a great job around the city. So, yeah, we're really excited about it. And that's where I am going to be, Patrick.
I am looking forward to your adventures there.
Thank you.
I obviously got a good one in Bobby Cooney. Yeah. So, all right. So that's where you're going to be able to read your stuff and follow your content and whatnot. But you are back on the Sixers beat. I'm sure the Sixers people are very pumped about that because you were very well liked in that building. Bobby, it was a mixed results. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Maybe there's some people, not a lot of people still around from when. So I guess my last year covering the team was 16, 17, somewhere around there. So some behind the scenes people are still around, but not a lot of players and coaches and stuff like that. So, yeah, looking forward to it, though. It could be some interesting times coming up with that team.
Yeah, I want it on record that Bob decided I'm gonna ride out the entire process. I'm gonna ride out Jarvis Varnado and Arnett Moultrie stories, and then as soon as the team
Casper
starts to
Ware.
who I think wasn't it was I get Casper Ware and Casper Wells confused. Do you remember Casper Wells?
No.
He was an outfielder for the Phillies.
No, I don't.
They
No.
claimed him off waivers from the White Sox. He pitched in relief and he was terrible, like at baseball.
Interesting.
Anyway, get them confused. But yeah, you suffered through all of that, and as soon as it kind of like started to turn the corner, you're like, I'm out. I'm gonna leave.
Yep, I was the sacrificial lamb. I, stayed there through all of those 26-game losing streaks. Two players coming in on a morning, and Brett Brown introducing himself and saying, "Hey, Tim, how are you? I'm Brett Brown. By the way, you're going to play 36 minutes tonight," and he did. That was Tim Frazier. Yeah, it was crazy times, but we got through it, Pat. We're all the better for it.
We did, and we're trying to get through this season. It's been a weird season for sure, and I felt like this past weekend was just the latest layer on the weirdness of the Sixers. Paul George ends up getting suspended for 25 games for substance abuse or drug related, but basically, I mean, he wasn't like doing hardcore drugs. It was like a supplement, for the record. But what was your take from the situation that happened and then the fallout from the team and how they responded?
Well, obviously, the way Paul George was playing lately, you thought that things might be really coming around to the way that Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse envisioned, and that was that Paul George was playing really good basketball, and Joel Embiid is getting back to the form that we were accustomed to MVP levels, and then of course Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. You thought you had something going there, and Paul George, for that, was kind of the linchpin, the best on-ball defender maybe of that group, the veteran, the guy that could create his own shot easily and knock down three-pointers, hit 9 3-pointers last Tuesday. You thought things were really coming around, and then, boom, something like this happens. And I bet my reaction might have been like yours and a lot of other people around the Delaware Valley. And it was, oh yeah, of course that's going to happen to the Sixers. Yeah. So the way the players and coaches handle it, you could tell they were, it was a gut punch. But it's the, sports saying now that is most popular, next man up. So they'll have to do that. And the next men that they have coming up, the Barlows of the world, I don't know, Pat. I'm not. We'll see. We'll see. Nick Nurse, he was dealt a big blow, and I don't know if he has the troops to be able to overcome this.
When you say he doesn't have the troops, are you talking like overcome it to make the playoffs? Because right now they sit at the 6th seed. Although the East is pretty jumbled up. They're not too far out of like the 3 seed. They're like a game or two or something like that. Do you mean that, or do you mean overcome it as in actually having success in the playoffs?
I think they'll make the playoffs. I think Embiid's playing that good. I think he's close to playing back-to-backs also. I really do think that they're starting to throw that around in their heads. I really liked their starting lineup of when Paul George was there with Embiid and Maxey and Edgecombe and Kelly Oubre Jr. I really like that starting lineup. The battle was then, okay, how do you get minutes off the bench and from whom at the bigger man position? They're committed to a Dembona being the backup to Joel Embiid. I don't see it. I don't know. They can't rebound, and he can't catch a ball, and he gets himself out of position defensively because he wants to block every shot in the gym. I would rather go with Andre Drummond playing. If Embiid's playing 38 minutes, give Drummond the rest of the minutes at center, and I'd be happy with that. Another big man like Dominic Barlow, they're starting him now for Paul George. I'm not being a negative guy. I just don't see it. I don't see what he brings to the team. And they talk about, he goes after the ball. He played 28 minutes the other night and had 3 rebounds. I just don't see what he is there. Jabari Parker's another guy in the mix, but again, it's just a mix with a Dominic Barlow. I do like their guards coming off the bench. McCain, Grimes, I do like that. But after that, as far as the big man situation, Pat, I just don't love the depth there without Paul George being on the team. And I think through a 25-game span, it could cost them 2, 3, 4 games. And that means a lot when you're vying for playoff positioning.
Yeah, I mean, what's sad is when I saw the news, I had that reaction of like, of course. And then my next reaction was, well, at least they'll be healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is another trickle down of like, of course, with the Sixers, it's like that just seems to be the case. But Embiid has been, knock on wood, he has been healthy this season. He is kind of rounding into form. Are you surprised?
Pleasantly, yeah, because I think the fans deserve to see players at their best. And when I first started going to games, I've watched the team all season long. He started doing some things. I was like, wow, okay. He did a stop and go there, or he did a spin dribble there, or his lateral movement to leave his man on a pass underneath to go and try to block a shot. He did that. I don't think the jumping's fully there yet, Pat, and that may never come back. I mean, we saw the other night, once Joel Embiid gets the ball over his head, he is extremely weak with the basketball. And it sounds weird, but if he has the ball here and he's going up and through, boom, he's fine there. But once he puts the ball up here and he has to shoot, you'll see guards come and swat it out of his hands. So that finesse part of his game is still not all there yet. But man, Pat, his dribble drives are really good. As I said, spin moves. When he's getting doubled, he's seeing players and getting the ball to where it should be. His outside shooting is still as good as it always was. And now big men have to respect his dribble drive. So they're playing off of him, and he's hitting 3-pointers. He's hitting long jumpers. He's unbelievably good, and he's playing extremely well. And yes, I am very surprised he's reached this level again.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the jumping. He didn't have a dunk till what, January? Like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's strange. It's like he doesn't. He's a big guy who loves the finesse game. If he could, he'd rather do an up and under and a left-handed layup as opposed to jumping at the rim. My thing always was in basketball, when you have a guy that big and that dominant, every time to me, that he jumps up and has a shot in the lane, he should be jumping at the rim, like go to the rim. He's not that. He's more of a floater and a dipsy doodle and stuff like that. So, but look where it's gotten him. And yeah, it's really cool to see where he is right now, Pat. It reminded me a lot of the way you dominate men's hockey leagues. Sometimes you have some down moments, but then when you're on, it's something special to watch.
I had a down moment last night. It was not good.
Well, your down moments come often, but those spectacular moments, when they are there, they are spectacular.
I lost my gloves, Bob. I don't have gloves.
How do you?
So real quick. Yeah, real quick. So my one league is so ass backwards. I play on 2 teams in the league. So I'm friends, obviously, with everybody on both teams. And when they play each other, I have to pick a team. So the team is Bulldogs is one team, Bacon is the other. Horrible names. So if I'm playing for Bulldogs, I'll get dressed in Bacon's locker room and just talk shit the entire time, right? I got to let them know. I got to get in their head. Mental warfare.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I showed up and I just start shit talking to everybody in the room. I'm kicking bags. I'm throwing my bags on people. So I go out to watch the high school game before us, and I hear the door open up, and they throw my bag out, and they lock the door. And I'm laughing. I laugh, but then eventually I get back in the room. I get all dressed up. I don't have my gloves, and I'm like, all right, somebody took them. So I skate out, and I'm like, yo, Mully, did you take my gloves? He's like,
yeah. Well, Mully's a character. You got to watch out for him.
Mully's nasty. Mully is nasty. Player. You know it. So I'm like, Mully, did you take my gloves? He's like, no. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Somebody took my gloves. I'll go to Lost and Found, and I'll find gloves. I'm literally wearing an adult glove on this hand and a child's glove on this hand.
Which one fit better?
That's a great question. The adult glove fit a little bit better.
Oh, wow.
Surprising, I know.
Yeah.
So after the game, I'm like, all right, guys, who's got my gloves? And they're like, we really did not take your gloves. And I'm starting to get worried because the only place that I unlock my bag is the rink and my apartment. So I get back to my apartment, they're gone. Like I have no clue what happened to them. So I'm wearing like a teammate's raggedy old gloves right now until I can figure it out.
Yeah, that's not good. I guess oven mitts don't work as well in hockey like they do in baseball.
They don't, which is the reason why everyone should let the ads run in this video, because I got to now buy $100 gloves.
Is that how much it costs? About 100?
Yeah. And I didn't even have these gloves for that long, Bob. I only had them for like 6 or 7 years.
So they didn't have the stank. They were just getting stanky.
No, they were like, well, it doesn't matter. We're moving on. We are moving on from my illustrious career.
You do a GoFundMe for gloves for Pat.
We should, because I'm that broke. Moving on, Bob, I got to give Daryl Morey credit. All right. I think the way that he's handled some certain situations, the trade of James Harden, or being forced to trade James Harden, for how he handled that, which we've talked about before. We think that was kind of a backdoor agreement between Daryl Morey and James Harden, and then Michael Rubin's share got sold and all that. But that didn't look good. The Patrick Beverley trade doesn't look good in terms of like the human aspect of sports. But I do have to give him credit with how he's drafted for this team, because you take Tyrese Maxey 21st overall in your first draft. You clearly hit on that. The 3rd overall pick in this year's draft was kind of contested. Like, who do you take? Ace Bailey, a lot of people wanted him. He decides to go VJ Edgecombe. It clearly has been the right pick so far. When you watch this kid play, what is the biggest thing that jumps out to you?
I think his maturity, Pat, in all honesty. The athleticism it just, bounces off of the court, off of the screen. If you're watching on TV, you can see that. Like, he had a play the other night where he was a weak side defender. A shot was taken by the opposing team. And I don't know why my eyes were on him, because, as I said, he was on the weak side of the floor. But a shot went up from the other side. He just kind of coasted over and had this look from my perspective, like, what's he doing here? And he went up and got a rebound, Pat. And it really made me, I don't say much. I sit there and watch, and I just went, oh, like, he went up and got a basketball. Like, it was one of those things where you just had to kind of back up if you were watching him the whole time. The bounce that he has in his step, the confidence that he has to shoot 3-pointers late in games, dribble driving, and his teammates and Nick Nurse are constantly telling him, attack, attack, attack. he can beat people off the dribble. And once he leaves his feet, he's going places that few can go. And he knows how to control his body. You know, it sounds silly, and I think I've said it to you through the years. There's some people who are really good layup shooters, and people will be like, what are you talking about? A layup's a layup. No, like Lou Williams was a great layup shooter because he could contort his body, or he could take contact and still remain within himself enough to shoot the ball after the contact and get the and one. VJ Edgecombe's a lot like that. He's a really good layup shooter. He's very good when he gets into the lane at controlling his body and getting off good shots. He seems to be special, but we've seen this. How do I put this? I don't want to say we've seen this before, but
we have. I know you can say it. Like Ben Simmons starts out, he's the next Magic Johnson. We all know what happened.
Yeah, you know, like I don't think that kid's that, because he's also got a great personality, and you can tell he loves the game of basketball. But it's like it was funny when I think of you, I think of prospects in baseball, and nobody knows the prospects of baseball better than Pat Egan. And I was always the guy that, like, I'd trade a prospect in a minute for someone that's proven in the league. Right now, VJ Edgecombe is still a prospect, right? He's becoming proven, and maybe after a year he will be, but you probably have to give him a couple. But right now, from what I see, Pat, this guy's legit. And the one thing people have to remember, though, they talk about Maxey and Edgecombe and all. That's great if you can have a great backcourt. You don't win in the NBA with guards. I mean, Steph Curry is an anomaly, but you can't build around guards. Guards are players you build with. You know, you're still going to have good big men with a great backcourt of Maxey and Edgecombe, should they, you know, grow and become that. So love them as a piece, absolutely. You know, difference maker, or however anybody wants to label it. We'll have to see. We have to see, and that'll take a couple of years probably.
Yeah, I think my the thing that impressed me the most is, even if he's not scoring, he's making some sort of impact. He doesn't get frustrated where it's obvious and he kind of checks out. Like, he's constantly moving, constantly trying to just create chaos on the floor. What do you think his ceiling is?
Ooh, you know, I think he's if he stays with the Sixers and this current situation goes, he's a great third piece. Great third piece, because he's going to have to be behind a Maxey. And they're going, like I said, if you're going to try to be legit, you're going to have that big man. Right now it is Joel Embiid. Edgecombe is a great third piece. He's not somebody that you're going to have to build around, or that you should build around. Like I said, a piece you build with, a backcourt for a long time together, he and Maxey. I think Philly should hope for that. But as far as ceiling, I'll say that, a great third piece, and there's nothing wrong with that.
We just talked about the prospects of it and how he's still a prospect, and we've kind of fallen for this before in the city, and we have, and it was literally a year ago with Jared McCain. He comes off an injury. He does not even look close to the same player as he was last year. Do you think that is the injury taking an effect and it taking him a while to get back to, because we see that in football all the time, right? Like, guys tear their ACL and it takes them a year of playing to get back into like their old form. Is it that, or is it we just got fooled and the league kind of figured him out?
I don't think we got fooled. I think he's a pretty good player, and I do think the injuries had a lot to do with it. You know, it's funny, you lose your legs in any sport, like you just said, Pat. That's really difficult, and takes a while to come back from. Then he does that, or he's in the process of doing that, I should say. Well, what's the other thing you rely mostly on when you're a basketball player besides your legs? It's your hands. And what's he do? He tears a thumb. And, you know, like, that's a pretty important part of your dynamic if you're a basketball player. So I really do. I do think the injuries, I think he's a smart player. I think he sees the floor very well. I think he's a really good shooter when his feet are set. If you see Jared McCain trying to back up and shoot three-pointers much the way Maxey does, or if he's on a fast break and he's running, gets the ball and tries to stop and shoot, I don't think that's where he's at his best. I think he's at his best when his feet are set. You know, maybe a pass to Joel Embiid, the double goes, he gets his feet set, gets the ball back, and can shoot. I think he's very valuable there. I think he's a good player. I do like him. Again, a guy coming off the bench. I don't think. Here's the good part about it. You said, like, did the league figure him out? I don't know if backups like him that get 15, 20 minutes, whatever it may be, I don't think they get scouted upon so much that the league figures them out. I think they're pieces and they have to play to their strengths. And, I don't think any team is looking at Jared McCain and saying, oh, we need to take this away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, great point. Coming up this week is the NBA trade deadline. Daryl Morey's always been pretty active with that. The Sixers do have assets, whether it be draft picks or a player like Jared McCain. What do you expect them to do?
Well, the big talk has been Giannis Antetokounmpo. Don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they would have to give up VJ Edgecombe and Paul George and draft picks to get Giannis. And I don't think, as much as Daryl loves going after stars, as you know, I don't think they're going to pull the trigger that way. It's not. People say, well, what about Jared McCain? You have to put yourself in the other team's shoes. If you're Milwaukee, are you satisfied with taking a 35-year-old Paul George and Jared McCain? I just
No, the only reason I cut you off is because I feel like in all of sports, the NBA is so star driven to the point of, like, the players have the most power, and when they demand out of a place, the value tanks. Like, I never would have thought that Jimmy Butler would have went for Dario Saric and Robert Covington and, like, a second-round pick. And I agree with you. Like, I mean, I think Giannis is so special where, like, yeah, there's no way that they're going to have better packages, but I don't think the package when they eventually trade him is going to be that impressive.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Miami, New York, those are teams that may be able to offer a little bit more. Karl Anthony Towns is a name that has been thrown out. So it'll be interesting. You're right, though, that stars get moved and you do scratch your head. Now, look, with Paul George being out, if Milwaukee's going, as Doc Rivers said the other night, the T word, the tanking route, you get a Paul George. He's suspended. So you're not helping your team at all. You're basically trading salaries if you're Milwaukee because you want to get rid of Giannis, and then I guess eventually you get rid of Paul George, and then you have money to play with, and blah 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 blah. I don't really see the Sixers doing much of anything, Pat. If they do, I would say maybe a backup big man who thrives in rebounding, because that's really where they're getting hurt lately. But Daryl Morey doesn't like to sit still, like you said, so it wouldn't shock me if something does happen, but I don't think anything major.
Their bench sucks, Bob. They need bench help so bad.
It's a shame because when Oubre came back from his injury, I was going over in my head like, all right, if I was Nurse, would I bring him off the bench? Then you have that real power punch coming off the bench of Grimes and Oubre. You got your scoring, and that's what you want off the bench in the NBA. And then you team them with, Maxey or Georgia, whoever, when you're playing those little backup minutes and all. And then can you get away with starting a Barlow or something like that, or maybe a Dembona starting with Joel Embiid? But now with Paul George being out, I don't know who that fifth starter is. And yeah, you're right, it does. It weakens that bench, and I like the guards coming off the bench, but they need bigs.
No, and I understand on one hand, like, you need the cheap options to win. So you want to see what you have in these guys. Like, when you look at the Knicks, like, they have Deuce McBride and they have, Mitchell Robinson, who are on cheap contracts. So, like, okay, I get it, but Barlow, you need to upgrade.
Yeah, like a Mitchell Robinson. That's a great name, Pat. How great would he be here with the Sixers? Like, if you could get somebody like that who can come off the bench and just rebound, or you throw him into that fifth starter spot. You don't expect him to do anything but rebound. That would be absolutely perfect. They don't have that now, and maybe they do go out hunting that during the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. They desperately need rebounding because we brought up Mitchell Robinson in, like, that Knicks game. The Knicks desperately tried to give that game to the Sixers, and the Sixers would have had it if they could grab a rebound. And then even then, the Knicks are like, just take it, just take the win. And the Sixers were like, we're good. We're all right. No, you guys have it.
You have more fans here than we do. Let's let them be happy. Yeah.
Go ahead. So, all right. What do you think at the end of the day? What do you think this team does ultimately in the playoffs?
I talked to people around the league, and I got the old, nobody really wants to play the Sixers, or they're going to be a really tough out and all. Of course, that was before the Paul George stuff happened. I had one executive in the league saying he's not a Sixers guy at all. He's just a guy in the league. He's like, I have a strong feeling they're going to come out of the East. And look, maybe when George comes back and they get all together, maybe they can go on some kind of a magical run, but the problem is you have to look at this team individually and separate it from years past and what's going on. And Joel Embiid breaks his face twice and it hurts his leg and this and that and the other. You kind of have to try to look at the team individually and this year alone. When he comes back, do they have that, big man off the bench figured out? Do they have cohesion enough if he gets thrown back into the starting lineup to be a viable team? On paper, you have a pretty good team. Everybody around the league says the same thing about Joel Embiid. He's unguardable. You cannot guard him. Well, if you have that down low and you have a Tyrese Maxey and you sprinkle in some other pieces, just this individual team, they might be able to do some damage. They might be able to win a couple series in the playoffs.
Bobby, will you be doing any Phillies coverage for On Pattison, or is it just going to be Sixers?
Currently Tim Kelly, Anthony Sanfilippo, are covering them and do a great job there. I'm sure there'll be sometimes I'll be sprinkled over there also. I'll basically, when the Sixers season's done, I'm going to be keeping a huge eye on the sports landscape of Philadelphia, and that'll include anything and everything. We got a major golf tournament coming here in the springtime. Yes, you do. Aronimink PGA Championship, Pat. Yeah. So I'm sure you'll be out there. We're going to do a lot of good coverage on that. There's a lot of great things going on. I'm sure I'll be at some Phillies playing Iowa this year, Pat.
Funny enough, Jack, my 7-year-old, we watch Field of Dreams quite a bit. And it seems like every time I put it on, he's like, is Iowa a real place? We have the same conversation. Is Iowa a real place? Is the Field of Dreams a real place? Can you go there? And I'm like, yeah, we can go there. Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, well, that sounds like you're going to buy 2 very expensive tickets to take Jack out to Iowa.
I got the invoice for the All-Star weekend, and I cannot. No, I'm not affording trips to Iowa. The All-Star weekend is like insane for the person.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy year for Philadelphia.
Yeah, it is. The reason I asked, though, was because there's a lot of negative talk regarding the Phillies because their offseason was what it was. What was your takeaway of that?
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, you sat back and you didn't do much, and then were you going to do something big, and then you didn't, and then it's kind of like, well, here we are. Yeah, I mean, that locker room last year, Pat, when they lost to the Dodgers, and I don't think I talked to you about this, but when I was in that locker room after, the Kirkering thing and they get ousted from the playoffs, it was a different feel, man. It was, I mean, tears and anger. And I've been in many locker rooms at the end of a season, professional locker rooms at the end of the season. This was so different. So I went back to the hotel and I'm writing and I'm trying to figure to myself, like, is it because they know that's it? The window's closed. That's done. Do they know certain teammates aren't going to be back who they really care about? Do they not have trust in this organization? I think, look, I'm just going to say it. I think it was a disappointing offseason by far. And I was down at the winter meetings and they painted this great picture and they signed Schwarber when we were down there, but bad offseason, Pat, really bad offseason. And our Tim Kelly, check it out on Pattison. Our Tim Kelly wrote about why not go after Eugenio Suarez? Why didn't they? If they're going to, spend money on Garcia, like, why wouldn't you do that? Or if you're going to keep paying Bohm. Now, whether you agree or not, I don't know, but it's something to think about. And his point being, what are the Phillies thinking? So check that out and see what you think.
Yeah, I think Bohm's time is numbered in Philly. I mean, once he's out of arbitration rights, he'll be gone. Like, they're never going to sign him to a long-term deal. But I mean, everything they said is accurate. Like, they're still a really good baseball team. They still are very deep, but doesn't feel like it does it. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
again,
no.
it's nobody, unfortunately, I mean, these are facts, but nobody wants to hear you lost to the World Series champs. Nobody wants to hear, oh, we brought back a guy that has 50 home runs and whatever it was. Like, nobody wants to hear that because it just doesn't feel like you improved anything. And I did a video on this channel where I posed the question, like, why are we so dead set on trading Nick Castellanos at this point if you're going to have to pay all of his salary? When Adolis Garcia is no sure thing. I like the signing, but like, he's no sure thing. You have no depth in the outfield at all.
No.
And you're going to trade this guy for the sake of trading him when he's an MLB vet. I don't think he's going to come into camp and, like, be a hindrance in the locker room. Maybe I'm completely wrong. You were in the locker room. You've dealt with him more than I have. But, like, I just don't get the logic at this point of, like, okay, if we're going to have to pay $18 million of a $20 million contract in the last year of it, I'd rather keep him. And because if Adolis Garcia doesn't pan out, you've got another guy. You can at least try. But,
just quick. That ship has sailed.
Okay.
And more, and I'm not being.
No, that's fine. You were in the locker room. I wasn't.
So here was the big thing. When the story came out about the commissioner being in the locker room and everything that happened with Bryce Harper and cursing at the commissioner and all that stuff, right? So that story comes out. Then Jeff Passan a couple days later has a follow-up, and Nick Castellanos is quoted all throughout it and tells details of what happened in that locker room. That comes out. We go into the locker room. I think we're in Milwaukee. We go into the clubhouse, a few hours before the game, as we always do. Sometimes players are available, sometimes they're. Bryce Harper's standing there waiting for us. Right away, walk in, boom, recorder's on. He says, yeah, we don't do that in this locker room. We don't talk about what happens in the locker room like that. Went on for about 5 minutes or so. Boom, that gets done. We're in the locker room just kind of hanging out. I go out to the dugout, just to see if anything was going on. And I see a body over there. There's Nick Castellanos sitting like in the dugout all by himself in a corner. That was kind of the case most of the rest of the year. Like it was. And then Rob Thompson later talked about how we don't talk about things that happen in this locker room. He violated, it appeared to me, he violated the sacred locker room or clubhouse according to those guys. And then, of course, he had the fallout with Thompson later on. It just became a situation, Pat, and I think Castellanos would agree. He just can't come back here.
Okay. I will delete the video then.
No, that's why you're so good, because you have your opinions. That's no matter how distorted they may be, you still have them.
That's what we do in this industry. Is if we have a bad opinion, we delete it and we act like it never happened.
Or you just run with it and you raise your voice higher and you just keep saying like what's going on in locker rooms and stuff like that when you've never been there. But that's cool. That's what people do.
What was funny was I was hanging out with a guy that I don't think you ever worked with him, but he was a part-time producer at the Fanatic, and I was hanging out with him on Saturday night, and we were watching the UFC pay-per-view together. And I said, I know everybody will harp on my Travis Fulgham take. And Lord only knows that's a really, really bad take. 1,000-yard Travis Fulgham season. He never had 1 yard after that.
Yeah.
I go, but I might argue that a worse take was when I said Joel Embiid, the Sixers should not the Sixers should not play Joel Embiid until it is absolutely necessary in the Hawks series. So, like, unless they were down 3-0, you don't trade Joel Embiid, or you don't play Joel Embiid, because I felt like the Sixers were that much better of a team. And then obviously the series goes 7 games, they lose. I look like an idiot. And the guy looks at me and goes, nah, man, I got to be honest. Like, the Travis Fulgham one is undefeatable. Like, that's so then I responded with, isn't it nice that we can sit here and we can, like, have a battle of which of my takes was worse? And they're both just putrid takes. They're both so bad. But that's sports.
I often say in sports, and I say this when I, talk to kids and stuff like that a lot of times your biggest competition is right here. It's yourself.
Oh, I thought you meant like my biggest competition was you.
No. Your biggest competition a lot of times is yourself. And LeBron James, I talked to him one time about it, and he went on and on and on about, I study opponents, but the biggest competition is right here. Yours is that, and it's a pretty weak opponent, I'm going to say. So you should win once in a while.
I think the exact quote I had on the bench 2 weeks ago was, "Nobody hates me more than me." So
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
It might not be right, but it's a good saying.
It is. Yeah, it is. It might, you're right. It might not. It's probably not right. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Bobby, what else you got going on in life, man? Like, I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
Yeah, it's been since Friday.
It has been. You know, it's funny. We're walking out because people don't know. Me, Bob, and a couple other people met up for lunch, and we're walking out, and Jack goes, "Who was the other guy?" And I go, "Like the guy who showed up late." And I go, "Ray." And he's like, "Oh, I remember Ray." By the way, this is Ray. Ray Dunn is a guy that Jack has said his second favorite person ever to work at the Fanatic. You're the first. Like, he loves Uncle Bob. Loves Uncle Bob.
I love him.
But I'm like, "You forgot Ray?" And then he's like, "Oh, I didn't forget him. I just, I haven't seen him in a while." And I'm like, "Get out of here, kid. You're drunk.
And he's got that beard going and all these things. And yeah.
Yeah, he's a modern day sex symbol. But yeah, it's I haven't seen you since Friday. So what's been new?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a fun little story. So Saturday night at the Sixers game, Sixers were honoring the 2000 and 2001 team that went to the NBA championship, right? Mm-hmm. So before the game, they're all kind of milling around and on. We get access to like Pat Croce, Billy King, and Eric Snow. So, you knew everybody was kind of in the house and all that stuff. So I go to my seat in press row, which for those who don't know, it's behind one of the baskets. It's about 8 rows off the court, something like that, maybe 10. And I'm sitting there and I look down and I said to the guy sitting next to me, I said, "Gordy, isn't that Iverson down there?" And he looks, and because he has his back to us, finally like turned his head, and we're like, "Yeah, that is him." He was sitting 2 rows off the floor behind one of the baskets. Pat, nobody in the section. When Iverson's sitting somewhere, it's, "Oh my God, look, there he is. There's cameras, there's pictures, there's everything." People are at least leaning over. People that are walking by the aisle behind are trying to, get a picture. Nothing. Not a reaction, not a people looking over, not cameras, not phones going off, nothing. So Gordy sitting next to me says, "Well, maybe people just don't know it's him." And I'm like, "Yeah, but everybody always knows it's him and where he is, right?"
Everybody's there that night for him.
Right? So
respectfully to everybody else.
Yeah. So Amy Fadul from NBC Sports Philly went down, sat next to him, and did an interview. Still really nothing. Like, nobody's leaning over, who's that or whatever. Now, I didn't know if security told everybody to calm down, but you're allowed to look at people. You're allowed to take your phone out. Nobody was doing it. So game goes on. A little bit later, about 10 minutes later, a PR guy from the Sixers comes and taps Iverson and says, "We got to go to the back for whatever they had to do." He gets up, walks from under the basket all the way over to, the tunnel where the opposing teams come out for basketball. Walks all the way over, and I'm tapping the guy next to me. I said, "Look at this." I mean, before it would have been screams and hollers and nothing. Walked all the way to the tunnel, and finally about 5 people or so got up, and they're like, "Alan!" And so this is nothing against Iverson at all. I'm not saying anything against him. I was just, it made me feel like, wow, 25 years is a long time. There's probably a lot of people in this building that really don't even remember seeing Iverson play or didn't see him play. And that popularity that used to be, it kind of like, it was on the low burner. Now, when they introduced the team at halftime and he was the last one to be introduced, the place went absolutely nuts. But it was just so surprising, and I blame it on time, not on Allen Iverson, but I blame it on time that he just walked almost unrecognizable from behind a basket to the tunnel. Yeah. Isn't that weird?
I wonder how much of it was the outfit that he's wearing, because I saw it, and but he was wearing
$1 million of jewelry around his neck.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to like justify it in my head, because you're right, like he's my childhood,
Right.
Like I've said, like, he's the toughest athlete I've ever seen in any sport. The only athlete I've ever seen where the marketing campaign was about how many injuries he played through, which still blows my mind. Great job by Reebok on that. But like, yeah, I mean, I figure everybody there. But I've talked to Jack about this, and it like legitimately does make me sad that like my kid will never know what it's like to watch Brian Dawkins play or Allen Iverson, and I have to tell him how good these guys were that were my childhood. And I guess in that instance, yeah, you're right. Like
Yeah, and then after
Savage.
the game, somebody asked Tyrese Maxey, like, how much of an influence watching Allen Iverson did he have on your
Is he
game or something like
alive?
that? And he's like, well, I may have been sitting in front of the TV when he was playing because I would imagine my dad would have plopped me there, but I was one.
Yeah, like
So even the older guys in the league that have may have been around for a while, if they're 30, mid-30s, 34 or whatever, you're talking they were young teenagers when his career was going on. Now that's impressionable, yeah, but the memory of it all, they probably more go towards LeBron and then Steph Curry and those type of things.
Yeah, I forget what game it was, but I was watching the Sixers game and they were talking about how VJ Edgecombe is like a student of basketball and how he goes on YouTube and watches all these videos and stuff. And it was like, well, who did you like look at? And I forget exactly who they mentioned, but I remember thinking like not that long ago. But
yeah,
to an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, yeah, they probably did look up to Steph Curry. And because, I'm 24, I don't even realize that, me being a young guy.
Oh, okay. That's what you're going to go with, 24 now?
I'm going to go with 20. Well, I did get told we did talk about this last night. I got told I looked like 27.
You're getting there. And if you shaved, man, are you kidding me? We could still get you carded going into bars.
Yeah, I don't think so. My problem with bars is like how high the bar is.
Yeah.
Because it's tough getting a Shirley Temple when you're a diminutive fella.
Yeah. Well,
you wouldn't know about that life.
No, I don't drink Shirley Temples.
Yeah, because you're a bitch. All right, Bobby. I think we've pretty much covered everything. I got nothing else.
I don't either. No, I don't. Sixers are on a 5-game road trip, West Coast swing. So this is going to be a little tough for them. You had a goalie fight last night in the outdoor game, which was pretty neat. You had 78,000 people watching Penn State play outdoors this weekend. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was 78,000 people watching Gavin McKenna play.
Yeah, there's a Super Bowl coming up next in 6 days. That's pretty neat. Spring training starts soon, Pat. So there's a lot going on. Yeah, no, you're not excited?
I loathe spring training.
Oh, okay.
Like the line fill in the blank days till pitchers and catchers, I want to go play in traffic when I hear that line. Because what people don't realize is when you hear that line, it's 6 weeks until actual meaningful games. And the only reason why people like spring training is because if you go down to spring training, it's great because you leave Philadelphia where it's 18 degrees and it feels like 7, and now you're in sunny Florida and you're not really watching the game. You're at the game, but you're not really sitting there dialed into, these prospects wearing numbers.
That bothers you.
It bothers me in the sense of like, I've always, and you know this, I've always hated when we make training camp more than practice. I'm excited for meaningful games that count. And I've been like that my entire life. Like I couldn't get into practice in terms of like when I play sports, I would want to play the game. I'd want it to count. And even now, like if I find out there are no refs at a game, I'm like, I'm not going to show up. What's the point? So I've always hated, and we've definitely talked about my disdain for NFL training camp. Like we would have bosses like, oh my God, get to August. And I'm like, fuck that. Get to September when the games actually matter. And I'm not breaking down practice.
No, like, you and Iverson have a lot. You and Iverson have a lot in common.
We do. I mean, our old boss, Matt Nahagian, would have like training camp updates every hour from Tim McManus. And the update would be like, Marvin McNutt caught a pass. All right, thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Like, what are we doing? It's practice. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I don't. When the Eagles season ended, I kind of moved on to like my next big thing was the NFL draft.
All right.
I mean, I guess the trade deadlines for hockey and baseball or hockey and basketball, but the NFL draft. But yeah, but like
trade deadline doesn't do much for you in basketball.
Not a ton, but I do look forward to it every year.
All right. So there's always stuff to look forward to, Pat.
No, I'm looking forward to stuff. It's just not the stuff that you mentioned. Like, am I looking forward to Patriots Seahawks rematch? No. Because I'm just sitting here thinking about how the Eagles organization buried their head in the sand and we couldn't let go of Kevin Petula because it might hurt the coach's feelings. Wow. That pisses me off, Bob.
Yeah, you're an angry young man.
I am, because they should be back in the Super Bowl with the talent level they have, and they're not, because their dipshit head coach has a high school offense that he's dead set on implementing. I don't have any passionate feelings on it, though.
Yeah, it's at least you don't keep it bottled up. You let it out. You get it out.
I think about you, and I said this last time you're in. I think about you constantly. Now that's just a blanket statement. That's evergreen. All right, Bobby, you know that. But every time I rip Nick Sirianni, I think about you, because I remember rolling my eyes when you were like, "I don't think Doug Peterson's a good head coach," and I was like, "What do you mean? Like, he won a Super Bowl. How is he not a good head coach?" And now here I am, sitting here going like, Nick Sirianni is a horrible, horrible head coach. And people will laugh at me. And then I bring up Doug Peterson. I bring up Brian Billick. These coaches that weren't very good. John Gruden, who won a Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm very passionate.
Sometimes you just get a feeling and you kind of know, and it works out. Like, that all started because the question on air, and I think it was me, you, Jamie, and somebody else. The question on air was, who would you take as your head coach, Andy Reid or Doug Peterson? And I was like, and I laughed and said, who wouldn't take Andy Reid? And Jamie said, no, Doug Peterson, because he's won the big one. And that's when I said, Doug Peterson's a 500 head coach. They caught lightning in a bottle, and it was great. And maybe he, hit the right buttons in some instances, but no, he's in my opinion, he was a 500 coach. And
and you're right.
Once in a while, Pat. Every once in a while.
He might be below 500 now.
Yeah, he was hovering there for a while. I stopped keeping count because I didn't want to put down our friend Jamie too much, because that's too easy.
Yeah. I mean, look, the bro is great. We saw him on Friday.
Yeah.
But just like all of us, he's got some takes that sometimes he's wrong about. It happens.
There's few people I enjoy hanging around than all the people that we hung around. Besides, Rock and Glenn and Tim and all.
Yeah. All those guys, obviously. Yeah.
But that's the core friendship. Yeah. But you guys, that was a lot of fun on Friday.
Yeah, we should probably do it again.
Couple of years.
No, at least wait 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I got, Bob. I'm not going
to. All right, buddy. Anymore. It was great being with you. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Real quick. Last thing I'll say. Sometimes I put on my own videos when I'm working just to get the ad revenue. I'll let them play in the background, right?
Right.
It'll just kind of shuffle my videos, so I never really know what's going to come up next. And I'm not even listening to it. The volume's on like one or two. And the last time I had you on, it pops up, and I actually turned it up and started listening to it, and I could not stop laughing.
Attaboy. That's what I like to hear.
That's what you do. So, all right, this interview's over. Say goodbye.
All right, goodbye.